In the 63rd minute, we got way too good of a look of Martinez's snot rocket on the
Oh, yeah.
camera. I just
There were
want
a
that on the
couple of
record.
those. Yeah.
That was really rough. I don't know. It was like the
You
whole
that's
game,
so
the cameras
weird.
were
I
terrible. You couldn't see
remember
shit.
that
And then all of a
too.
sudden, just like 4K. Hello, we are live.
Hello.
Welcome to Happy Foot Sad Foot. Welcome to the post-game live stream. I'm Darren Miller.
I'm Travis Helwig, and we're so happy to be joined by the greatest mind in Los Angeles Football Club history, Vince LaRosa. Vince, how you doing?
I'm great. I got to tell you, Travis, you sent me a text today asking if I would join, and I do enjoy being with you guys, but I have to say, I'm doing this for my mom. She asked me last week as she was watching you guys, she goes, "Where are you? Why aren't you on the show?" I was like, "Mom, I don't have to be on every single show." So, Mom, if you're watching, I'm here. And yeah, I'm doing this for Mom.
Vince's mom, I'm sorry I curse so much on the show. It's nice to meet you.
She's a
Friend of the foot.
She's fine with
Friend of
that.
the
She's
foot,
fine
Vince's
with that.
mom.
She'll be okay with that part.
All right. Well, we just witnessed the first leg of the Philadelphia Union versus LAFC Champions League match, which, as we all know, was scary to watch through and through. I would say I did not have fun for 85 minutes of that game. Darren, how are you feeling?
Wow, same. Yeah, that was a real cringy, tough to watch game.
Yeah.
That was rough.
Then something I've
But
noticed
in every way, in good ways and bad ways, it was just a real ugh.
it
I just
wasn't
unclenched.
it was a good game. Like, it was fun to watch, but it was not pleasurable as an LAFC fan. And I knew that we were having you on, Vince, so I wanted to ask you, I've noticed now through how many games? Is this the 13th game of the season? LAFC, or of the throughout competitions, LAFC has seemed to, they're cool with not having possession, and that wasn't true last year as much. And I'm wondering how much of that you think is a permanent tactic versus a tactic that we're doing to get through this long stretch of matches.
Both. I mean, Steve Cherundolo says that he wants his team to be good in all facets of the game, and being able to sit back at times and soak up pressure, causing the opposition team to come forward and give you more spaces. I mean, look, if you can get Carlos Vela, Danny Bouanga, and any combination of Mahala, Bogusz, Stipe running 3v3 or even 3v4 versus a defense, you're going to feel pretty good about that. So it is a tactic. I do think, though, a lot of it has to do with these games. And so being away from home, definitely that was part of the game plan, was to do that. The problem was, and the reason why I think we're all like, that was not great to watch, was it was exactly the game Philly wanted. Like, they weren't able to really capitalize on it, but even though the tactic was smart, LAFC just was not executing well in the ways that when they were breaking out, a lot of poor decision making, not much rhythm. And so Philly's watching this and going, "Look, we understand that you guys can hurt us, but you're not doing much, and we're just going to keep making the game into smaller chunks." Is really what they do. They play forward, they get a foul, it goes out of bounds, they start again, and they just redo it. LAFC, much better when they have a rhythm, and they just never seem to find that until late in the game.
Yeah. It feels like it seemed like we were hoping to counter, and they seemed very good at breaking up our counters. They seemed to be prepared for that in a nice way. I mean, for them, not for us, but like we were, a save besides that Denny Bouanga shot with the incredible Andre Blake save, and Kellen Acosta with a little bonk to tie the game. I mean, we didn't really have opportunities. The only other opportunity I have that I remember was one sad foot I was thinking of, which I think it was Sifu got the ball at the top of the box and had a heavy touch and then didn't have a straight shot on goal. It was not a great moment in the game. Let's just look at the chat real quick. Joseph says, "Happy foot Vince is here," and Acosta got necessary redemption. Sad foot Vela did not look too happy getting subbed off. I think he never looks happy getting subbed off.
Yeah.
To me, I mean, that's not a sad foot. He's got the fight in him. That's good. I want him to be that upset.
Yeah, like the flip side is, what if you sub a guy and he's like, "Thanks.
Yeah.
See you later. I'm out." That was good. Got a little run out. He puts a towel around his neck. Like, you don't want him happy. And look, as long as he shakes Steve's hand quickly, I think it's one of those things. Barely. But I would say that, and Steve knows this well, it's one of those things where it's like, as long as it ends there, like, he can be as pissed off as he wants, but once they go in the locker room, it's like you just move on from it. That's fine. That's kind of what you want.
Yeah.
They made a good point on the broadcast too, that like the game had kind of just finally opened up for LAFC. They were starting to get a few chances. he was getting beat up. Like, that was just kind
Yeah.
of a tough game for him.
Yeah, he
Oh,
did run full speed into a giant man. Like, I know
Sure.
it could have maybe it definitely was an MLS foul. I don't know if it was a Champions League foul, but just like running as fast as you can and then a giant man steps in front of you must hurt so bad.
We have our first live stream cast.
yes, and I'm looking at the name and knowing that it's from The Simpsons and knowing my podcast partner in crime, I'm gonna make a guess that it's not actually Cliff Clavin from The Simpsons. It may be the one and only Max Bretos. So maybe we open that door.
Cliff-
Oh my
It
gosh.
There it is. There he
Hey!
is.
Cliff
That's not
Clavin.
Cliff Clavin.
Cliff Clavin from Cheers. Is that how did I spell it incorrectly?
I'll
Oh,
have
is it
to go
Cheer?
back. I'll go back and proofread the Cheers
Uh-oh.
scripts and let you know.
Yeah, isn't there a Simpsons
Did I screw
character?
this?
I
Did
don't
screw
know.
this up? By
All
the
I know
way,
is you prefer to
I
not go
just-
by your own name.
Cliff Clavin of Cheers is the name, but I spelled it with an E. It's with an I, so I screwed that up. I apologize.
You know what? Thanks for being here. We'll see you later, Max.
Yeah. Well, that was fun.
By the way, Travis, I sent a tweet out about the Knicks, and I think you thought I was like just trying to bomb the Knicks. I'm actually a Cavaliers fan, so I watched
Oh.
that series, and I kept it under my hat, and I should have kept it completely under my hat because they stunk.
I'm sorry. I knew you were coming on.
Congratulations, though.
If I knew, I would not have worn. I'm not gloating. We have very few. We have yet to feel any joy as a team for a very long time. So
100%. You should soak that in. It's like not the Warriors. You guys enjoy all that as you can. I think you guys will probably win another series.
don't.
What-
I will never feel hope until we win a championship. It's all too scary.
Wait, what is
It's a
happening?
weird year. It's a weird
What is
year.
happening here? This is
Sorry.
not NBA playoffs talk.
Welcome to Happy Foot Sad Foot,
Yeah.
the New York Knicks podcast.
Yeah.
Vince,
Hosted
I'm
by
having-
Darren/Ernie. I'm
Yeah.
who am I? Max, you're clearly Chuck. You got to be Chuck.
Clearly, Chuck.
It's
Ernie.
a podcast of 4 Ernies, and
Yeah, who are we kidding?
well, thanks so much for being here, Max. I mean, what we do here every episode after a game is we usually ask people a happy foot and a sad foot from the game. Happy foot being a positive thing that they saw during the game, sad foot being a negative thing that they saw. I want to say my happy foot was Acosta holding his head, even though there was video review. Although I will say, I do think the Fox broadcast must have been so low quality because they kept saying it's clear and obvious, and watching on TV did not look clear and obvious.
Yeah.
at all.
Acosta convinced me. I was like, that looks like his head. There was one after he had already set up for the PK. They showed it again from a new angle finally, and I was like, oh, okay, from there it was his hand. But it's not a bad tactic. Like, what if they don't have the angle?
I think it hit his arm, but and unless the Fox crew had different replays that we were not privy to, there's no way that you can look at that and say it didn't go off his head, because the first one it had such a carom that could only come off a head. It couldn't come off an arm because you don't have a sharp point like a forehead. So it looked like it hit off something pretty hard. And again, I think it did go off the arm, but the 2 replays we saw, I could argue till I'm blue in the face that it did not, that it went off his head. So that's where the replay gets a bit, unless they had a different review. The 2 replays I saw, you can't reverse that call, in my opinion.
It was such a bizarre, like it felt bizarre to watch because the commentators were so confident in it, and
Yeah,
watching
they
it on
must have seen
television.
something.
Yeah.
They were like
that
that on a
last
lot of
angle was
calls
different.
though. Like
Yeah.
there was a ball out of bounds, and they were like, that was clearly still in play. And I'm like, guys, you're not even there. First of all, we know you're not there.
They're not
Like,
getting an
come
extra
on.
replay. I can assure you they're not getting an extra replay either. I'm sorry, I'm fixing my camera there.
I do feel like it's very fun to beat up on how shitty the Fox broadcast is now that we know what Apple is like. You don't have to mention that, Cliff, but I'm saying it.
Yes.
Max will sit that one out.
And then my sad foot was that, well, I have 2. One is that Opoku, I know he got taken out. It seemed like there was something tight going on, but he also seemed out of flow the last few matches. He doesn't seem to be finding the right spaces. And, it's far enough into the season that I'm starting to feel a little nervous about him. Maybe his head's in Europe, who knows? But he just doesn't seem like he's playing with the same urgency that he played last season.
That's interesting.
fair.
I think there's some truth to it. Yeah, it is. He certainly played a lot better earlier in the season than we've seen the last 2-3 weeks. 2-3 games.
Yeah.
Man, that is a sad foot. That actually made me sad.
That's what this is all about.
Yeah,
It's making
how
people
sad can you
uncomfortable
get?
and sad. Yeah.
My first happy foot is John McCarthy owns Philadelphia.
Mhm.
I'm gonna come out and say it.
Fuck, man. Yeah.
That was a great John McCarthy game. That was
He-
fun.
yeah.
My other happy foot was just Acosta redemption.
Yeah. It was watching John McCarthy make all of those saves. It's a bummer he didn't. It would have been such a good story if he could save that PK, but
That'd have been crazy
you can
if
only
we could just be like,
so many.
sorry,
Yeah.
you can't hit a PK against McCarthy. I guess you guys just can't pull it off, huh? That'd have been great.
He had a good game, though, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, Max,
that
what was your-
first half saves against Ua was massive, obviously, in hindsight, too.
Yeah, give us your happy foot, sad foot, Max. Welcome to the show. You got your
By the way, I like
initiative.
that Darren just had, I think it's a soda, right? Or is that a beer? But he had the last sip of it and he enjoyed it. He put it that last sip. I can see it.
This is a beer.
Okay.
You'll probably catch me drinking what I think is the last sip another 5 times. Then realizing I'd already finished it.
But it was all the way up.
Now I'm done.
So, I think you guys covered the happy foot pretty well. I want to say something for Sifu because I know he has been the object of some dissatisfaction because his play has not matched up the last couple of years. I thought he put in a really nice shift today. He had the ball in that was to Denny Bouanga, and he played 78 minutes, which means the coaches are feeling more confidence in him because Timothy Tillman, probably not 100%, was available on that bench. And I was curious to see how long because I thought Sifu was involved. He was advancing the ball well. Again, it's not as good as he was a year ago, but it's starting to move back again. So I think he's finding his confidence because it looked like maybe he just wasn't there, whatever it is. He wasn't present, and he did have that goal against Vancouver too. So I think that's a good happy foot. I think Mati Bogusz showing that he can provide an impact in a small time at least is another one too.
Yeah, I think those are both great happy foots, and you're right that Sifu. We give him a hard time. We have to also be kind when he has good matches. We forget that as fans. And also, I thought it was interesting that Bogusz came on first over Stipe, which that's the first time we've seen that. And only the second, I guess, third match now with the team. He seems to have taken that rotation spot, at least in this match.
Yeah, it might be a thing of just you have these bodies now. You have a lot of different things you can throw at opponents. And, Steve is probably using that well because he now has, when everyone's healthy, you have 3 guys, maybe 4 that you can bring off the bench for a midfielder, for an attacker that if it could throw off an opponent at the very least. Because I don't think you really know what to expect. It's Bogusz and Buick, maybe Tillman obviously coming off the bench as well, is from the midfield up. And I guess you could say Duenas as well would be in the mix for that too.
Yeah. Vince, what about you? You haven't shared your feet yet?
Yeah.
Usually you charge for that.
I know. Yeah. My happy foot would be the center backs holding on just barely for dear life. That was definitely like the whole game. It honestly felt like a 2v2 basketball game for long periods of that game where it was Carranza and Ua versus Murray and Long. One thing that does scare me, and this might bleed into a sad foot, is Ua clearly has pace on Murray. And Murray needs to understand that in certain situations, like you got to bump him or you got to do something, but you can't go toe to toe with this guy in a foot race. But I say that, and ultimately they only get a goal off a penalty, and those guys aren't able to convert that. So I'll put that in a happy foot, and hopefully they watch some tape and go, guys, look, the second that one of their midfielders is able to pick his head up, these forwards are just running. They're not even looking. They're just running and then picking up the ball. It literally looks like a wide receiver going deep and just hoping he can get an eye on the ball before it lands. Sad foot was just the decision making. And this goes into like Mahala was one of them. There were chances to use this game plan and do things with the ball, but they really just didn't have it. They did connect some passes later on in the game as the game got stretched, which I think that they looked a lot better. But for the most part, the only instance I can think of where like they really executed it well was they got that early ball out to Bouanga at one point, and he puts that shot off target early-ish in the first half. But they didn't really take advantage of the fact that they were sitting back and able to turn over Philly a lot of times. It was either poor execution or thinking too long on the ball or just the guys not opening up in the right way. But I just that makes me worried because you're going to get the same game. It's going to be the same game coming back to BMO Stadium. You just hope you'll have a little more energy and you'll have the crowd behind you to help buoy them a little more.
Yeah, I forgot how many ties we've had against them, and I'm like, well, we know that the next game's going to end in a tie. We just got to prepare for that.
Hopefully 0-0.
It can only end in a 0-0 tie, really. I mean, you can go 1-1 and then you go penalty.
Five straight ties, including MLS Cup,
right?
Which is
wow.
In which Philly has led in every single one of them, which is crazy.
I believe the goals have all gone back and forth too.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it was Philly's always gone ahead, and they just can't seem to close out a game.
I just want to take my hat off to Philly, man. That was a great game. That was intense. Their crowd behaving badly, which they're allowed to. It just goes to show, these are the two best teams over a long stretch, and that felt like an occasion. So, it takes two to tango, and there was. I mean, John Thornton was quoted too saying this was an organic rivalry where it's been created based on success. We were the two best teams at the end of last year, and we both did what we were supposed to do to get to the semifinal. That means they're very good teams. So that was I bring that on. We need that in the league so badly. We need marquee matchups that you would hope would draw in a neutral audience. If you were an MLS fan, you probably have to take a peek at this. If you were in St. Louis or Denver or Texas or where have you.
Yeah, I certainly imagine no one's going to miss the second leg for sure. Like it's just a must-watch game now, especially like, I don't know, you watch that game and then you watch us against Vancouver in the Champions League, and it's like watching two different divisions. It's just so obvious that Philly is a good team, and like they deserve to be where they are. And watching the Champions League game last night, like these are probably the four best teams that were in the competition. It'll be fun no matter what.
Do you guys prefer that it was MLS versus and Liga MX versus Liga MX, or would you have rather those kind of lines been crossed a bit?
Great question.
Go ahead, Darren.
I'm good either way. Like I there's a lot to like about both. I love the idea of like, let's find the best of this league to take on the best.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the whole thing being mixed is fun in the first place. So
I think
I don't think you'll find me complaining either way.
The narrative of Champions League is MLS better than Liga MX? And to know that we're going to have a final where we will have an answer to that question this year is cool. Like that narratively, that's what you want, right? Like you don't actually want to, I mean, you do want to know who's the best team on the continent, but it's so much more fun if it's the championship is against the two best leagues.
Also, I'd rather have us Philly in this game than any other situation. Like this is awesome.
This is LAFC Philly. It, I think has more clout than LAFC Tigres. I know people would argue that, or LAFC, maybe not LAFC Tigres. That's a warm because they had a final. But the Tigres is not playing well. Leon is. They're doing well, but not as well as they normally would. But I just think the LAFC Philly has so much momentum based on that final that I would say this would have been the best semifinal matchup if those were the three options.
Vince, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and Max and I talked about this a little bit earlier on in the week. It's because it's Philly and LAFC. Like so many times we do get this where like, yeah, you prefer to have two MLS teams in the final because that way you get an MLS winner. But it's because a lot of times it's like a really good team and then somebody that just kind of slipped through there and you're like, okay, hold on. If this team continues to slip through and get to the final, this is not going to be good for MLS. But these are the top of the top. So you know that no matter who goes through from LAFC and Philly, it's going to be a great team and a team that can really, take the final. Whereas, Max, what do we say? There's times when like Montreal slipped through and other teams have gotten to the final. Yeah, and you're just like, okay, I mean, that's nice that you're in the final, but like we don't believe you at all. Yeah. So that this is at least a chance where it's like, look, whoever gets out deserves to be out, and they're going to give their best to a League MX team, and then we'll really find out, who's the best in the region.
Yeah, I feel like we're neglecting the chat, which is popping off, and they had a good sad foot in there, which is that Ryan Hollingshead is clean shaven, and that feels like that's just bad luck written all over it.
That's
if
a bad
shaving
omen.
off that mustache.
But maybe he's leading it in. Maybe he's leading it into Tuesday. Remember, guys, it's just only halftime here. So
you think it grows that fast?
Oh, I know it. I know it grows that fast. Max and I have seen him, and it's like he can go from clean shave into a full mustache in like less than a week.
Let's see it.
Experts about his facial hair speed.
Guys, we have a lot
Their
We have
actions
a
about
lot of
everything, Travis.
There's a lot of downtime at the training facility where we're waiting for people to come out and do stuff with us. And Max and I have a lot of time to chat about things that we probably can't bring up here.
What is the training facility like? Are there good snacks at least?
Oh, the food is fantastic.
The food's really good. And I can tell you because I'm getting at the age where my internals can't take everything that you can eat. So if I eat something at lunch, I might be stuff like that. But every time I eat there, I feel lean. The only thing is that we eat after players, they have food left and we'll eat some. They're very generous in that sense. The worst part is when you're there the day before a game because all it is carbs. And that's the players need the carbs.
Oh,
I don't
right.
need the carbs. I mean, it's like there's like a little bit of meat and then it's pasta, rice, bread. And you're like, ugh, but they end up eating it. It's very tasty.
It's so funny.
Carb load for that vocal energy.
Maybe.
They still they do a pasta party like I did in high school. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Like I always thought that didn't actually work, but I guess the best of the best think that it does.
Yeah, some things never change.
Thanks everybody in the chat. If you're here watching, give us a thumbs up. That helps people find the video. I'm trying to look. Yeah, if you're on video, give us a thumbs up. We're seeing lots of great people are saying that this is sort of like Lakers Celtics back in the day. Like, that it's the two best teams when they're playing. Jesse Perez says run back to stash. Wow, we have so many to get to.
There's a lot of comments here. Yeah. Here's a duo here. Sadfoot Philadelphia stole our Jump for LA Football Club chant, and someone that was Daniel and Jesse Perez soon after said they had a cheap knockoff of our Tifo too. Something's going on here.
The Tifos seem like they were trying, like, I don't know enough about Dragon Ball Z to know what's going on, but it was another Dragon Ball Z one, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do either of you know
maybe
anything
they
about?
went
Are we
deep
too
within
old
the narrative of Dragon Ball Z to like one up our particular Dragon Ball Z reference? But I feel like the message is just not landing.
The four of us are pretty aged out here.
I know the old arcade game Dragon's Lair. That's about
it. Yeah, close. Another sad foot I have is that, I don't think I'm the best comedy writer in the world, but they put a sign up that said Dupin and Onions and in the Dungeons and Dragons font. And I was like, do they think Dupin and Onions is a play on Dungeons and Dragons? It was one of the more confusing fan signs I've ever seen. It's not a pun. It doesn't make sense. Like, I know what dupe means. Does onion make what? I don't understand.
Unbelievable. Yeah, that's a fail.
I'll admit to being perplexed by that as well, because I was like, are the Onions a supporters group? I'm like, I'm kind of cool with being named the Onions supporters group, but then I was like, but Dupin and I'm like, wait, I'm with you. I was trying to piece it together.
Even if onions meant something, it's not a pun. Like, it doesn't work as a thing. That made me so mad every time I saw it. Oh, another happy foot I had was Wagner yelling very loud at the referee over the placement of the ball on the corner kick. It just
was like, so petty. That was so petty. And by the way, the referee was my sad foot, Cesar Ramos. He actually walked over there for a quarter of an inch, but Kai Wagner wouldn't roll it back. I go, what are you guys fighting over? Just roll it. And I was like, it's like just the dumbest argument. It drove me, and it was like 30 seconds. We can't get back. I'm like, come on.
It made me so happy.
That was a good sad foot.
Yeah, it was just such a funny. I laughed out loud watching that moment because it just so clearly didn't matter to either of them, and they had to walk through the performative steps of being upset about it.
The official was bad. I mean, he really. I mean, it wasn't great. I will say he really. And you guys were talking about it. He really rode Carlos Vela. I mean, you don't have to give him calls. But he gave him nothing. And I don't think that Glesnes was a foul. I think that was a 50. I'm fine with that. But that other one up the field where he was in full flight. And then kind of it was very patronizing with Carlos the whole time. And again, he doesn't, it doesn't have to, it was just, I thought that we were kind of beyond that. And it was repetitive, telling him to hurry up to get off the field. All of it was just this, Mike, it was like, the penalty, we can argue about that. It wasn't great for me.
Do you, in your opinions, should there have been cards in that little shove fight, or are you happy that they played on?
I think you got to card. I think you got to card somebody. It got a little bit like guys putting hands near people's faces and things like that. You got to.
Should have gotten yellow cards.
Yeah, I think you got to even it out. But when guys start getting hands up near each other's faces and they're like grabbing at the back of each other's necks and stuff like that, you got to do something. And I know that the commentators were like, fight, fight, fight. Like that's all they wanted.
Yeah, they were kind of into it.
Yeah, they were definitely egging them on. But that games like that, I don't think do any justice to how good that game is. And I think that referees can they think that they're controlling the game by not carding players, when I think that's what cards are for. That's how you get a little bit of a modicum of control and respect from the players, because you have that one power. But when you just go, you guys will figure it out, I don't love it.
Yeah. In the chat, Jimmy says he remembers Dragon's Lair, so you're not alone, Max.
That game.
Another Max shout out from AO. He said next week is going to be hyped like LAFC Bone Storm for Max Bretos.
Bone Storm,
what else
Bone Storm. It's that one account. He was at The Simpsons. He always likes to ride me a little bit. I don't know, but it's like veiled in some. I don't know. I don't know how he feels. You see,
Do you need us? If you need us to take care of him, we'll take care of him.
Yeah,
we know
you've got.
He made me laugh
yeah.
because I used to go yes, and it sounded like the Simpsons character. Yes, so he did that, and that made me laugh. But
I like the yeah.
I still do it once in a while.
Yeah, it's good. Les Scoot says Sadfoot having to hear the dupe song. I know people don't like the dupe song, but again, makes me laugh. I love stupid traditions that don't make any sense. The dumber, the better is what I always say.
Well, at least it's original, because like you said, they have like now their version of Jump for LA Football Club, and these chants, just to be fair to everybody, there is a lot of chants that are used across the board. So let's just calm down there a little bit. But at least it's original. No, because no one's stealing that one. No one wants that one.
Dope.
Dope.
I agree with you, Drive. I like it. It's theirs. It's good. It's a nice tradition.
I grew up in Connecticut, and the Whalers had a really stupid brass band song that they would play after every goal called a Brass Bonanza. And it wasn't a good song, but everyone in Connecticut loves the Brass Bonanza. And I don't know, they feel almost like college football, dumb, stupid traditions that are fun.
Where are you from in Connecticut?
I grew up outside of Bridgeport in a town called Stratford. So like not nice Connecticut. Oh, do you know Bridgeport?
Well, because I lived in West Hartford when I was at ESPN, and then we would go to the Bridgeport Arena for some shows. And what's the band about being in the suburbs? Arcade Fire.
Oh, right.
Arcade Fire.
Good.
And we were at a show of theirs at Bridgeport, and they had these giant headgears, and they'd always come out, and they wore them in every show. And then I went on Twitter, and then the Arcade Fire account says, somebody stole one of our headgears from our
remember that show. That's Bridgeport.
I go, way to go, Bridgeport. Yeah, Bridgeport. You drive, you go down the street, because Travis, people think Connecticut, they think New England, Colonial.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's very, very, lakeside. All this stuff is very, and it is, but it's got some hard. It's got a hardness to it too.
Whenever I tell people I'm from Connecticut, I immediately have to say not the nice part. They're like, a blonde kid from Connecticut has horses. We know he has horses. And so I have to be like, no. And then usually people who know Bridgeport are like, okay, we know. They're only place where they'll steer paper mache heads for no reason from Arcade Fire. What's the resale value on paper mache heads from Arcade Fire?
I know Arcade Fire was really upset about it, and they were going, anyone who has any information about this, there's a $10,000 award, something. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, how do you not have a backup? You gotta have a backup.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Paper mache heads, which is probably done. You could probably I don't want to undersell it. You could probably do it in a few hours. And it's Arcade Fire at the time, one of the biggest bands in the world back then.
Yeah,
it was like 10 years.
It just needs time to dry overnight. That's all.
Yeah, just make a new one, guys. Just make it. That's the whole point.
When I brought up the story, Travis goes, "Oh yeah, I remember that." It was Bridgeport's claim to fame.
We don't have much going on. My hometown, Stratford, is right next to Bridgeport, and our claim to fame. We have two claims to fame. One is that we had one of the largest asbestos plants in America, which very proud of. When the plant closed, everyone longs for the days of big asbestos because all the jobs went away. And then we had a Shakespeare theater in the 60s that stood abandoned until two high schoolers burnt it down a few years ago. So that's where I'm from.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done, Southern Connecticut.
Yeah.
A very cultured place.
Joseph says listener mandated banter is happening a little early. Yeah, we are getting away from the game.
I feel like it's happening a little late.
Yeah.
We should have started with it.
I feel like, did we miss anything from the game? I mean, it was an intense game. There wasn't a ton. Tactically, do you think we missed anything, Vince or Max? You guys are the smart ones.
No, I mean, like I said, it was the game. It was more so the game that Philly wanted than LAFC wanted. So I think maybe the biggest happy foot is the fact that you get out of there 1-1 and you get an away goal. because
Yeah.
really,
And
that should have been Philly's game.
It should have been. But I saw like Tom Bogert and people said dominating first half. I don't know if that's what I saw. I thought Philadelphia
Having
were
the
definitely
ball,
better.
having the ball is not dominating.
No,
Creating half
yeah.
chances is not dominating.
And
You can
they
say
were
that they
very
definitely had the edge. I would say dominating. I agree with you, Max. Is a little heavy-handed.
I think Philadelphia are going to be kicking themselves because they were not clean. Second half, LAFC were turning the ball over, then Philadelphia would turn it right back. I mean, they had some chances if they just kind of really collected themselves, but they were way too hasty in some plays, and I think they're going to be like realizing they let some opportunities get away. It probably wasn't the game plan that they wanted to abide by, but it's the one they got.
Yeah, I'm very happy we got a 1-1 tie though over a 0-0 tie. I when it looked like we were going to have a 0-0 tie, I was not looking forward to the stress of that game in Los Angeles. Anything else, Darren, you want to say before we take off?
I've got a also not tactical sad foot to add to the mix. In the 63rd minute, we got way too good of a look of Martinez's snot rocket on the camera.
Yeah.
I just
There were
want
a
that on the
couple of
record.
those. Yeah.
That was really rough. I don't know. It was like the
that's
whole
so
game, the
weird.
cameras were terrible.
I
You couldn't see
remember
shit.
that
And then all of a
too.
sudden, just like 4K.
You know
right in
what's
my
funny though?
face.
You would think that of any sport, soccer players would not be the best at that. But I feel like if there was some kind of contest of snot rockets, soccer players are winning that. Like you would think
Yeah.
hockey players might be the champs at that, but soccer players just epic snot. Like they're just they're too good at it.
It was a really good one,
Snipers.
Darren. And then he had an exchange. He was getting up, and then he blocked out for the left one, and nothing came out. And then he did it to the right, and this thing just went pow, pow.
Yeah.
It was big and juicy, and I was like, "Oh, it was a little bit too much."
It is super and it is
I
super
saw it
casual
too.
too. I love like you said, Max. They'll be like mid conversation, like yeah. So I just and they just it doesn't even
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
it looked like an
unconscious
oyster
almost.
came out of his nose.
It was the only time the Fox broadcast was in 1080p.
The camera hung on him too. It was like, why are you still on him? Oh, it was like they coordinated it. It was uncalled for.
It was
That was, I the one thing I want to go back to, because I think we spent a little time on it, is John McCarthy. I've given him a hard time a few times in this podcast for his decision making. He played a great game. I think he made some really strong saves. Also, I take back
Absolutely.
all of my Aaron Long hate from the beginning of the season. He's played a bunch of really strong games for us. And that save early on in like the 30-something minute where the ball was being crossed, fully saved a goal there. So I want to formally retract my Aaron Long hate on this podcast.
He also did a last-second offside trap on Gazdag that if he didn't do, would have been a goal for Philadelphia. And you could see him; he just goes whoop, and it's the nick of time. It was just a sixth sense, which some guys wouldn't do, and he did it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was smart the way he leaned forward like
And
that.
you were like this. He knew. You could see something brewing there. He's a good player.
Is there, someone just asked before we go, is there a reason, they said, hoping Vince can explain why, Joseph asked this, hoping Vince can explain why away goals won't be a thing in the finals? It's only a thing leading up to the finals? Is there a logic behind that?
CONCACAF gonna CONCACAF.
Cool, yeah.
I mean,
don't ask me the question. I have had nothing to add.
I think I guess the best explanation might be because there is added time. There's extra time if needed. Whereas in these other contests, you go straight to penalties. And if you're the away team and you have the chance to score a goal that essentially is worth more than one goal in extra time, it's not fair. So I think maybe that's one of the reasons why they removed that.
Okay. Seems overly complicated, but what do I know? I don't know.
But that is in place for the semis or no?
That is actually CONCACAF's mantra. Their motto is seems overly complicated.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll play underneath a tree, CONCACAF.
By the way, I was going
ahead.
to say something about John McCarthy. Sorry. You're around him. He feels like he knows this is a huge job, and he's there because Maxi Creposed. He knows he can't have a bad performance or a so-so performance. He knows with the history of this LAFC goalkeeping role that he has to bring it. And I think he felt like there was a couple games where he didn't have the performance that he may have had earlier in the season. I get the feeling he's working on it all the time, and he knows that he's a good keeper and he wants to be a really good keeper, and he's getting there because he's playing. This is a club that, that the expectations are so high now, whether it's the goalkeeper or whatever position. There's pressure on you if you don't perform. And I think John's had his head above water in a very difficult situation and has had a good season, and I feel it's going to get better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys had a great interview with him on your show that I think he was just so locked in.
We got stonewalled the entire time.
Knocked on the door from every angle, and he was just like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm just that locked in.
If you interview John, you're better off asking things a little bit off there because he'll say that because he doesn't really want. He doesn't. I don't know what to tell you. It's like and he doesn't want to sound too cliche. So he goes, let's talk about NBA or let's talk about food or something. I think it might be a better interview.
I've watched his Twitch streams before. He is like charming. Like he has that side of him. So it's interesting. He doesn't want to let you in.
He's a lovely guy.
Yeah. And I will say, like, our keepers, I think the first couple of years as a team were always they were the thing I was least confident in a lot of the time. I was always a little nervous about the decision making. And now I don't feel that with John. I mean, there is some decision making that I wish he would approve upon. But I feel confident with him there. And I felt very confident with Max there. And even Jakupovic, I thought he had a good game the one game he played as well. Like that is no longer a weakness for us. If anything, it's a strength of depth. All right. We're going to wrap it up, but remind everybody the name of your podcast now that it's back. We're all so fucking happy that it's back. It was the best podcast in the space. So thank you so much for bringing it back. What's it called where they could listen to it?
Do it, Max.
It's called Inside LAFC. MVP.
He's trying to think of a good joke.
I was saying I was going to say something really inappropriate, which could have got me in trouble. So I wisely moved away. So Inside LAFC, MVP, the Max and Vince podcast. And I just got to tell you how wonderful it is to work with Vince. And I missed him very much when we weren't dealing with it. We stay in touch all the time. We text each other all the time. I call him all the time. And he's such a unique person within that club. And the club loves him. The players love him. They know who he is. I mean, they embrace he's put a lot of time in to be able to tell the stories of LAFC better than anyone. So I'm thrilled that we can continue to do this. And I hope we can do a lot more.
Nothing to add.
Vince is like, I agree. I am the best person in the club.
That's right.
Agree.
Real quick, AO in the chat says MVP plus Happy Foot Sad Foot plus Chiellini Espresso Shots YouTube vid? 4 question marks.
Yeah, if we can make it happen for sure.
Yeah.
By the way, the budget for the coffee pods has like tripled. It's Giorgio, and they're like everything with the club is tightly budgeted, and they go, this is what you have to expend, and it's not that so when everything gets off kilter, it's an alarm bell. So they go, wait a minute, what's this triple of the coffee pods? And it was Giorgio's doing.
Yeah, he doesn't drink Red Bull before games.
It's not just him drinking the coffee. Other guys are drinking more because of Giorgio.
I got 3 kids. I feel like I'm training to get to Italian level, so I'm ready.
Vince, Max, thank you so much for being here. We're always so happy to have you, Vince, and Max. It's so nice to meet you, and it means a lot you took the time to come on. That was our Happy Foot Sad Foot post-game live stream. We'll be back next week after the second leg with another live stream. And also subscribe to Vince's Substack. He'll have takeaways from this game. Vince, where can they find that?
It's vincelarosa.substack. Very easy. Just my name and then .substack.com.
A little secret is that every week for my podcast, I read what Vince has to say, and it's very helpful for this podcast.
Fair.
I know what you mean. I do the same thing.
Well, thank you guys so much for being on.
Vince is secretly behind every LAFC podcast.
Yeah. Hashtag hire Vince. It's so great to see you guys. Thank you for coming on. Thank you so much for being in the chat. Sorry we didn't read as many comments today, but we were excited by our 2 expert guests. See you soon. I love you.
I love you. Goodbye.
I love you.